The man had just been hit by a shell. Instantly, he turned to dust, but unexpectedly, in the next moment, he rapidly recovered, and relied on countless high-tech nanorobots working inside his body. Soon, the man returned to the battlefield completely unscathed. He is the superhero bloodthirsty warrior, feared by the villains, but before this, he was just an ordinary soldier. One day, Garrison suddenly received a mission from above, to take his team to Kenya for counter-terrorism. With the protagonist's luck, and exceptional combat skills, he quickly dealt with those minor characters. Then Garrison charged towards the terrorist leader. Seeing how formidable the other was, the terrorists didn't dare to underestimate him. To save his life, he held a gun to the hostage's head, demanding Garrison to surrender, and put down his weapon. Garrison was reluctant in his heart, but he had to comply. However, Garrison didn't truly give in. While negotiating terms with the other, he was also thinking of ways to save the hostage. Seeing that Garrison was unarmed, he began to relax his demands. Just as he left the hostages with his gun, Garrison quickly picked up his weapon. Garrison quickly grabbed a weapon, and solved the terrorists. After the mission was completed, Garrison hurried to find his wife. After a passionate embrace, they talked about their feelings. For Garrison, this was a happiness that money couldn't buy, but he never dreamed that everything would change the next day. Garrison looked at the bed, and saw he was all alone. He thought his wife had gotten up early to make breakfast. Garrison went to the bathroom to wash up. At this moment, a sound of footsteps quietly approached. Garrison had keen hearing, and he immediately heard it. Garrison thought it was his girlfriend teasing him. Suddenly, two strangers appeared in the room, holding guns in their hands. But no matter how powerful the weapons were, it has to give up in front of Garrison. His arms were thicker than a thigh. Garrison grabbed one person by the neck, and with a slight exertion, the guy heard the sound of bones snapping. The head of the other guy exploded like a flower as the toilet burst. Garrison thought of his wife, and immediately rushed outside. He bumped into someone just as he exited. Garrison couldn't afford to apologize. His mind was filled with worry for his wife's safety. But suddenly, his steps slowed down. In the end, Garrison fell to the ground. The person he had bumped into approached. Garrison noticed him fiddling with a syringe. He finally realized that he had been ambushed. The sedative began to take effect, and he knew nothing after that. When Garrison woke up again, he found himself locked in a slaughterhouse. This sudden attack left him very confused. Who exactly wanted to take revenge on him? At this moment, the man who had stabbed him appeared, dancing joyfully. Seeing the other man's comical appearance, Garrison became even more irritated. He really couldn't remember when he had offended such a character. The music gradually faded. The man began to introduce himself. He said his name was Martin. He didn't say anything else. The reason for kidnapping Garrison was because of the operation a couple of days ago. Martin asked Garrison if the military had placed someone with the terrorists to inform them. Garrison remained silent. Martin had anticipated this. He ordered someone to bring Garrison's wife in. Martin wanted to exchange her life for information. He looked at his beloved, and Garrison was clearly panicking. He rushed to explain to Martin.
Oh no, man, that's not my job. I go where they point me.
But Martin didn't believe him. He picked up a weapon, and was about to act. Garrison truly had no idea. After thinking it over, Martin still had murderous intent. He picked up a syringe used for killing pigs in the slaughterhouse, and stabbed it through Garrison's wife's head. Just the night before, they had a sweet dinner date. Now, they were separated by life and death. The loss of his loved one left Garrison dazed. When he came to his senses, he frantically tried to break free from the ropes.
No, you're nothing. You don't even exist anymore. I swear I will find you and end you. You should kill me now, because you won't have a second chance. I promise you.
Martin looked at Garrison, whose eyes were filled with blood. He knew in his heart that this guy could really do what he just said. So he stopped the music, and took out a handgun. Martin planned to eliminate this threat. As soon as the gun fired, Garrison fell down. But this was just the beginning. A new story was just starting. This was Garrison's third time waking up. This time he found not only had he changed locations, but his clothes had also changed. There were strange sounds in his ears. Garrison pulled out all the tubes attached to him. Then he fell off the examination table. At this moment, a beautiful woman appeared.
Hey, look at me. Hey, look at me. You're okay. It's gonna be fine.
She gently comforted Garrison. Garrison was about to speak, but he fainted again. When he woke up again, Garrison noticed a man wearing glasses next to the beauty. The man was very excited to see Garrison, but Garrison felt confused, because he didn't recognize either of them. The man said they didn't know him, but welcomed Garrison to RST. RST is an abbreviation for Rising Psychological Technology. The man's name was Emil. He was a doctor at this research facility. The woman was his colleague, KT. After a brief introduction, Emil began to examine Garrison's body. He also asked if Garrison remembered anything from before. Garrison was initially quite confident, but suddenly his mind went blank. He couldn't even remember his own name. Seeing him like this, Emil could only tell the truth. It turned out that Garrison was already dead. Now he was a resurrected being.
By the US military.
My body?
It was either us or Arlington, I'm afraid.
Arlington, Doc? I got some scars, but I'm not ready for the cemetery.
I'm sorry to be the one to tell you this, but you got yourself killed.
Garrison found this quite interesting. He thought this place wasn't a research center, but a mental hospital. The doctors were also crazy. Garrison didn't believe his words. Emil planned to show him for himself. The scope of RST's research was very broad, including exoskeleton reconstruction, neural repair, and so on. But Garrison was the most special case. Emil said he was a great achievement in human history. To prove this, Emil began his demonstration. He inexplicably made a cut on Garrison's hand. Before Garrison could get angry, he saw a shocking scene. His hand was covered with countless black things.
They intuitively enhance your biology. Most notably, they react very quickly to catastrophic injury.
Emil told him it's all thanks to nanorobots. They have already become a part of Garrison's body. After seeing it with his own eyes, Garrison finally believed it. He wanted to know about his past. KT said that was classified information. Emil advised him not to dwell on the past. The future is what matters most. He also showed off his mechanical arm and the respirator on KT's chest. According to him, the Institute had helped many people. They were all very enthusiastic about Garrison. Garrison was feeling overwhelmed. He went back to his room to sleep. That night, Garrison had a dream about his experience with Martin during his lifetime. After waking from the dream, he couldn't fall back asleep, so Garrison went downstairs to work out. He punched the sandbag and burst it. Later, he shattered the stone pillar and dumbbells. It was then that Garrison realized what this technology had given him. But gradually, the happiness turned into confusion. He didn't know who he was. He couldn't remember the scenes from the dream. Just then, KT emerged from the pool. She knew Garrison had a nightmare, and comforted him casually.
Trust me. Soon you'll remember enough to wish you could forget it again.
They wanted to drink some alcohol to numb themselves, and then get a good night's sleep. As soon as Garrison took a sip, he felt something was wrong. A woman's voice echoed in Garrison's ears, and there was the dancing man. Memories from his past flashed in his mind like a movie, running chaotically in his brain. He became increasingly agitated. No matter how KT called out to him, it was useless. But suddenly, the gunshots from his memories interrupted the recollections. He calmed down as well. Garrison understood why he had been donated as a body, because he no longer has any relatives. Recalling the past, Garrison left the research facility. Emil was very angry when he found out. He immediately started a live call.
Where are you going?
Doc, how are you talking to me?
You have 1 billion wireless microprocessors in your brain. I need you to come back here right now.
I got unfinished business.
Garrison said that his memories had all returned. He would return to the research facility immediately after taking his revenge. Garrison relied on nanorobots to help search on the global internet. Finally, Garrison pinpointed Martin's hideout. In order to find Martin quickly, he even booked a helicopter directly. Garrison quickly learned how to pilot it. Now everything was ready. He was just waiting to deal with Martin. That night, Martin was driving through a tunnel. The lights suddenly went out. Immediately after, his car crashed into a truck. The cargo from the truck spilled everywhere. Both vehicles were totaled. The bodyguard quickly got off the car to check, and found that their man was already done for. But the truck driver had long since vanished. Just as the bodyguard finished speaking, a figure emerged from the shadows. Garrison had come for revenge. He quickly located Martin's vehicle. Garrison began firing non-stop. After taking several shots from the bodyguards, he fell to the ground, pretending to be dead. Once everyone had let their guard down, he suddenly jumped back up, startling everyone. His body was covered in high-tech gear. He had immense strength. Garrison could recover even after being injured. Seeing that the bodyguards were helpless against Garrison, Martin in the car became anxious, and quickly pulled out his phone. He called a bearded man for help.
He's here! They finished it, and he's right bloody here!
We all knew he wasn't gonna let us walk away.
Seeing that the other party didn't care about his life, he cursed the other party's mother on the screen. Outside the car, Garrison didn't want to waste any more time. He activated all the nanobots in his body to face the firepower of the bodyguard team head-on. Martin felt a deep sense of regret, but what good was it? There was no such thing as a pill for regret. Just then, 2 round holes suddenly appeared in the car window. Garrison's eyes stared in. Martin stepped back in fear. He hurriedly locked the car door. The driving bodyguard saw the situation was not good, and fired a shot at Garrison, shattering the corner of his mouth. But who would have thought that in the next second, the corner of Garrison's mouth was as good as new. Martin knew he was in serious danger this time. Before dying, he still wanted to persuade Emil.
I can help you. You're making a mistake.
Thanks for the advice.
After Garrison avenged his wife's murder, KT came with 2 others to find Garrison. It turned out that during the fight with the bodyguards, Garrison didn't have the upper hand either. In order for his body to keep self-repairing, the nanobots he used were nearly out of power. KT came over to ask how he was. Garrison said he had taken his revenge, but his wife would never come back. KT understands that he is contemplating whether all of this is worth it or not. Garrison said he had done what he needed to do. KT said she felt the same way. This left Garrison a bit confused. He wanted to ask KT what was going on, but he was interrupted by Tibbs. Before leaving, Jamie blew up that car, fearing it would leave clues. Upon returning to RST, Garrison was taken to the lab to recharge. Jamie walked in and pressed a button on the computer. Garrison was locked onto the examination table. Then, he stuck his chewing gum under the table as usual. Jamie told Garrison the truth.
You think you're the good guy? It's a goddamn joke. You're an exhausting shitbird with a revenge button we keep pushing.
It turned out that the whole thing about avenging his wife was all fabricated by Dr. Emil. He was treating Garrison as a killing machine. Whoever Emil wanted to kill, he would create a story on the computer. The character of Martin could even be replaced. In fact, they were all Emil's business rivals. Why did Jamie dare to speak the truth? Because every time Garrison finished a job, he would be brainwashed and reformatted. When Garrison woke up, he would be a brand new Avenger, and he wouldn't remember anything. Emil thought this plan was perfect. The high-tech body was incredibly powerful. When he reviewed the footage, he discovered that KT almost revealed the truth. He was very angry. Emil warned her not to do that again next time. KT was already fed up with this mission. Hearing Emil's warning, she immediately became furious. KT felt that Garrison's plight was unfair, but Emil dismissively said, if she didn't like it, she could just leave. KT was very conflicted inside, but in the end, she compromised. After all, her life depended on the respirator. KT could only follow Emil's orders. The technicians began preparing for the next mission. This time, the Martin was the big bearded man from before. It turned out he was Emil's old classmate. Now he was his competitor. Everything was ready. Garrison was revived again. Still following the old script, Emil couldn't even be bothered to change a line. When Garrison rushed out of the building again, to avenge his non-existent wife, Emil was back in action. He wanted to dissuade Garrison through a live call, but he didn't expect that the big bearded man was much smarter than Martin. He had already made preparations. The big bearded man planned to use technology against technology. He found a programmer to help. As soon as Garrison arrived in England, he revealed his identity. He was killed by the bodyguards. The people in the lab were bewildered. Why was he so weak this time? Only KT knew that Garrison was pretending, but they hadn't been happy for a few seconds, before they couldn't laugh anymore. It turned out that Eric, the programmer Emil was looking for, was so scared when he saw the bearded programmer Wiggins, he almost kneeled down to worship him. Wiggins was a big shot in the coding world. He was the first person to develop a stable bidirectional interface. This time, he teamed up with the big bearded man. They created a weapon capable of dealing with the nanobots. When Emil learned that his project was using Wiggins' open source code, he was very angry. He wanted to rip Eric's hair out on the big bearded man's turf in England. Garrison used his old trick again, pretending to be dead and then launching a surprise attack. Wiggins handed the big bearded man a controller, and said this is the key to victory. Seeing Garrison filled with rage, he immediately pressed the controller, but it was useless. It turned out that the controller Wiggins gave him needed to reach 100% to function. As Emil saw Garrison about to fall into the big bearded man's hands, he wanted to recall him, but just as the command was sent, it was intercepted by Wiggins. Emil tried several times, but it didn't work. Garrison killed the bodyguard and found the bearded man. Garrison wanted to avenge his non-existent wife again. The bearded man was very frightened at the sight. In the end, the bearded man lost his life due to a non-existent revenge of killing his wife. Emil saw that the mission was completed again. He had just breathed a sigh of relief when Wiggins pressed another controller. The nanobots in Garrison's body stopped working. He collapsed to the ground, powerless. It went dark for miles around. The research facility couldn't see the footage. Emil was very anxious, but Wiggins was a programming master, and he had no way to counter it. Wiggins shocked Garrison awake. At first, he seemed quite imposing, but in the next second, he was scared. Wiggins explained that he wasn't working for the bearded man. He was kidnapped and tried to escape, but each time he was too scared to move by the bullets. This time he was using Garrison's hand to gain his freedom. To thank Garrison, he revealed the information he had overheard.
I heard them talking. There have been these rumors of a hired killer wiping out every defector of RST. Each kill was like a vendetta. You know, like it was really personal.
Because it filled my head with nightmares and sent me on a suicide mission.
Garrison finally understood the truth of the situation. However, he didn't rush to take revenge. Instead, he wanted to find his wife first, because no matter how the mission changed, his wife was always the same. But Wiggins advised him not to act impulsively. If he left this place, he might be captured and reset. At that time, the next one to be killed could very well be himself. But Garrison was determined to find his wife. No one could dissuade him. Before leaving, he even cut his palm, leaving behind his high-tech blood for Wiggins to study. Everyone knew that the greater the hope, the greater the disappointment. Garrison found his wife through his memories. When they met, they excitedly embraced each other. His wife looked just like she did in his memories, but when she heard Garrison say he wanted to come inside, she instinctively took a step back. It turned out she was already a mother. The child was from her current husband. Garrison finally realized that he had disappeared for 5 years, and he and his wife weren't the couple from his memories. They were just an ordinary couple. That little bit of hope was gone. Garrison left in disappointment. He drove aimlessly around the streets. Garrison didn't know which memories were real. He hadn't even had the chance to grab a drink yet. Garrison ended up colliding head-on with the people from the research facility. As soon as the two sides met, they greeted each other with special bullets. Then they started chasing each other. Tibbs had the ability to connect to satellite surveillance. He launched a reconnaissance drone into the sky. Tibbs wanted to see what the opponent was up to. A map immediately popped up in Tibbs' mind. It had everything: houses, gas stations, alleys, and trash bins. It was very detailed. He quickly located where Garrison was. Tibbs informed Jamie, who was chasing him. A horse gets tired if it doesn't eat grass. But Jamie's high-tech legs wouldn't tire. The two of them worked together seamlessly. They were like eyes that could see 1,000 miles, and ears that could hear the wind.
Tibbs, I can't see it.
On the run, 2 blocks west.
Garrison encountered Jamie on the road. He had no weapon in hand. Garrison directly used his head as a weapon. The two of them wrestled on the road. At this moment, a truck came driving by. Tibbs was the first to get hit. He instantly lost both of his legs. Half of his face was sliced off. The truck driver was frightened to death. He was shocked to see Tibbs stand up. What happened next was simply terrifying. The driver was so scared he couldn't even close his mouth, but he had no idea that the person in front of him was a bloodthirsty warrior. Just then, Jamie sped past in his car. In the blink of an eye, he inserted the controller into Garrison's body. The research facility noticed the situation was not good, and took action quickly. They wanted to shut Garrison down and bring him back. This infuriated KT. She was determined to leave, but just as KT reached the door, she felt like she couldn't breathe. It turned out Emil was playing tricks. He wouldn't allow anyone to betray him, let alone leave alive. If KT wanted to survive, she could only continue with the mission. Emil assigned KT a task to solve Wiggins. KT used her charm. Wiggins inhaled her secondhand smoke and collapsed. The bodyguards were easily dealt with as well. In the research facility, Garrison finally met Emil. Although he already knew the truth, Emil remained very calm. The surrounding environment changed under the influence of the code, but Garrison was still very angry. He questioned Emil why he had to use him, why he had to force him to kill, but Emil's answer left him even more speechless.
You made me kill.
I didn't make you kill, Ray. You've always done that. I just cleared the path. I freed you to be your best. There's nothing left for you out there. In here, you get to be the best version of yourself.
One is in control, and the other is being controlled. They stand on opposite sides of reason. They don't understand each other at all. So, their conversation fell apart. At this moment, KT returned. She told Emil that the mission wasn't completed. Wiggins had run away early. Emil believed that KT wouldn't lie to him. Then let's do it again. This time, he pinned the revenge for his wife's murder on Wiggins. KT felt uncomfortable hearing this. She sneaked into the lab. Using a USB drive, she entered Garrison's dream. She began to cause chaos. By the time Emil realized something was wrong, KT had already entered Garrison's dream. She ignored the roars from outside. KT told Garrison that she was going to do something that should have been done long ago. After she finished speaking, she pressed the controller. At this moment, Wiggins appeared in the underground parking lot of the research facility. It turned out that everything before was an act. They were all working together for a coordinated effort. He had moved his equipment and home into the truck's cargo area. Then Wiggins hacked into the research facility's system. After all, the system was using his open source code. Eric from the research facility noticed something was wrong. They began to clash.
You thought you could lock old Wiggins out of his own code?
Wait, what? What the hell's happening? No.
Drop your gun!
You got this.
My son, if you're gonna come for the king...
The bespectacled Eric couldn't compete with the hat-wearing Wiggins. As the dream gradually collapsed, Garrison woke up as well. To punish KT for her betrayal, Emil wanted to turn off her respirator, but Wiggins was well prepared. Without her weakness, KT became invincible. She threw a smoke bomb. KT did not want to kill Emil, but the time wasn't right. Jamie and Tibbs received orders to deal with Garrison again, and if necessary, they could kill him. To ensure the plan's success, Wiggins connected to the nanobots in Garrison's brain to communicate with him in real time. Garrison said he had something to do. Wiggins could only teach KT how to do a simple data formatting first. Initially, it was thought they would rely on computers, but in the end, it was solved with a bomb. Jamie ran into Garrison again. The last time they faced off, he lost both of his legs, so this time he specially added mechanical arms. The two immediately began to fight. With 4 hands, Jamie had the upper hand. He quickly gained the advantage. Later, Jamie and Garrison crashed onto the top of the elevator. Seeing this, Tibbs jumped down as well. Garrison's 2 fists couldn't compete with their 6 hands. Garrison was knocked down by their combined force, but being in good shape, he quickly ran to another elevator. Garrison's elevator was going in a different direction, but Jamie had mechanical arms. He quickly caught up. Garrison was knocked down again. This time the impact was too great. The elevator was completely destroyed. He was hanging in mid-air. Tibbs was also sliding back. Jamie arrived, but he didn't save Tibbs. Instead, he kicked him. Garrison saw the scene and was extremely angry. He leaped powerfully and took Jamie down with him. As they fell, the nanotechnology energy within Garrison was fully activated. He became extraordinarily powerful. Garrison effortlessly severed Jamie's mechanical arm. He and Jamie fell from a height, causing the parking lot to shake. On Wiggins' side, the nanoblood suddenly churned as if it had a reaction. The research facility exploded, and Emil's henchmen were all gone. He got into a car to escape. A mechanical hand flew in and pierced through the car. Garrison emerged from the dust. He was now invincible. Grenades exploded in his hands without any effect. This time, Garrison's body self-healing was consuming the final energy. Once the energy was depleted, even Wiggins would be helpless, but Garrison didn't care. He prepared to deliver the final blow to Emil. Emil launched a second grenade. But this time, the grenade didn't even get close to Garrison. Before he disassembled it into pieces, Emil saw that Garrison no longer posed a threat to him, so he walked over.
But all that's now left is Ray Garrison.
And that's enough.
Garrison opened his palm. That was his final weapon. Garrison prepared to deliver a fatal blow to Emil. With the sound of the explosion, everything came to an end, but Garrison woke up again. This time it wasn't a program reboot, but Wiggins had saved him. As the sun set, two hands clasped tightly together. The past program had been destroyed. The future was filled with uncertain beauty. The film comes to a close here. This movie gave me the feeling of a superhero's awakening. It was quite remarkable in terms of visual effects. The action scenes were exciting, but the plot was rather cliched. It lacked depth. Overall, the film was decent in terms of action scenes and visual effects. If you like my channel, please click subscribe.